Hello and welcome back to Witches of the Moon. This is Season 4, Week 6. I'm Eva Maria, your Monday hostess for this season, and this week we're discussing spirit animals. If you hear any funny noises off camera, it is probably due to my little Nixie Pixie. She's just being rambunctious and playing. So, yeah, if you hear anything, that's probably her just playing around, being a kitten. That aside, essentially, spirit animals, they're animals in a spiritual sense or form. There are so many aspects to this topic. I'm going to try to sort of share my thoughts, my ideas, the things that I feel about this, the things that I know or understand about this. I'm going to try and share what I have to share with you in as concise a way as I can without rambling too much. The first thing I'd like to touch upon is that spirit animals, they're not quite the same as familiars. In fact, I don't think they are the same as familiars, and let me explain why. All animals obviously have spirits, okay? All animals that are familiars, they have animal spirits because they are animals with spirit. But not all animal spirits are necessarily familiars. Individual animals can be familiars, but not every animal is necessarily going to be someone's familiar. I hope that makes sense to you. A familiar is an individual animal that, well, when we're speaking about animal familiars, because there are familiars of other kinds as well. But when we're speaking of animal familiars, an animal familiar is a particular animal that has developed a certain spiritual bond with you that not all animals, or even people or other beings will share with you. It's a special bond. It's a very deep spiritual connection. I'm not saying that it's impossible to have a spiritual familiar that is not like a physical pet. That is quite possible. But I don't personally feel that the concept of a totem and a familiar are one. And let me explain why. In my personal view, totems are sacred archetypal animal spirits. When we speak of dog as a totem, we're not speaking of one dog. We are speaking of the archetypal and or essential collective soul of all dogs. In essence, a totem is a spirit of the ancestry of an entire animal species. This archetypal spirit is a part of the divine, as all things are a part of the greater all. I hope that makes sense. So therefore, if you see the concept of a totem animal the way that I do, that it is an archetype, it is the collective, the ancestry, the essential soul of all animals within a given species, you can't really say that that animal totem is your familiar, because how can you bond with every single animal in a given species? Not saying it's impossible, but it's just, I don't feel that familiars kind of work that way, if that makes sense. For an example, okay, take my little Nixie here, take my little girl here. Nixie's a cat. Her spirit is a cat spirit because she is a cat. She's connected to and a manifestation of cat as a totem. Nixie is my familiar, but not all cats are my familiar. Cat totem itself is not my familiar. Nixie is my familiar. I hope that kind of clarifies sort of my view on that, the difference between a familiar and a totem, in my personal view. As for the term itself, the term totem, the word totem is associated very much with spirit animals as a concept. You may wonder where the term comes from, what it means. Totem as a term relates to the concept of totem poles. Some Native American groups carve and or paint long wooden poles with particular symbols and spiritual imagery, including depictions of particular animals or animal spirits. These decorated totem poles represent particular clans or families. The animal totems depicted are believed to watch over, guard, and guide the family, clan, or tribe. When clans, tribes, or families revere a certain totem, it is because that totem has always overseen, guarded, and guided their people. Some people may even see such totems as ancestral spirits because they believe all things are related, all things come from source, all things are part of the greater all. This is like an animistic view of the world and things in it. So, therefore, if you keep that in mind, sort of the origin of the concept of the term totem, how it relates, and totems don't always have to be animals, from what I understand, from what I've read in other places. Totems don't always have to be animals. Totems are often animals. People associate the term totem with animal spirits. In contemporary New Age terminology, the words totem, animal have taken the connotation of meaning an animal spirit that watches over, guards, and guides you from the time of your birth and all through your life. That's not to say that you cannot have a spiritual animal or an archetypal totem sort of come in and just guide you for a time and then sort of, you know, move along. Because that can happen too. Just because an animal is, like, in my view, like that archetypal animal spirit, that totem sort of spiritual animal collective soul, it may come to you to show you something, to teach you something, to convey a message. But that doesn't mean that every single totem that comes to you is necessarily like your lifelong totem animal. I do believe that animals as a whole, animal spirits in general, they have a great deal to teach us. I believe that animals are more evolved than we are. I do believe in the concept of reincarnation, you know, where the soul sort of refines and defines and learns as it goes from lifetime to lifetime until eventually we attain all the enlightenment and spiritual evolution that we're able to, and then we once again become a part of Source. And I believe that animals, being that they're not driven by ego, they're more ascended than we are. They're more enlightened in a sense. Their souls are more refined. I believe that in the journey of spiritual evolution, you know, in terms of reincarnation, maybe we do start as people, and eventually, as we near Source, we become animals. That's just my view, because you know what? I look at it like this. A dog or a cat, they don't do things based from like baser ego kind of emotions. Like if a dog takes your sandwich, it's because, wow, that smells good and I'm hungry, you know, or I feel snacky. You know, it's nothing personal. It's not like I hate you, I'm going to take your sandwich to punish you. Animals don't do that. You know, when an animal attacks someone, it's either because it is sick or it is defending its young, or, you know, maybe it's defending its territory, or, you know, maybe it could be any number of reasons, but it's always a reason that is not, it's not a personal thing against you. It's something that relates to, it's just, it's survival, it's general well-being. It's not personally hating on you. It's not, an animal doesn't become aggressive because of some ego trip. It just wants to, like, you know, whatever. It's the things that animals do, they're not ego-based. It's just purely their nature. They're true to their nature. So that's why I believe animals are more evolved. I do believe that animals have lessons to teach us. If only we will listen, pay attention. As I was saying, I'm just referring to my little scrawlings here on some paper. Spirit animal is a term that some use interchangeably with the term totem animal, but some people do not use these terms interchangeably. Some people see all animal spirits as spirit animals. but they don't necessarily see all spirit animals as lifelong totems. That's what I was saying before. Occasionally, animal spirits may come into our lives to guide us for a time. They may have things to teach us. They may appear to help us to work our way through a leg of our life's journey, or to convey an important message at a time when we most need that message from the divine. But not all animal spirits will be present for the long haul. Not all spirit animals are our lifelong totems. You know, I hope that makes some sense. So now that I've briefly discussed the ideas of like a lifelong totem versus, you know, a familiar, versus my personal view of, you know, totem animal spirits sort of being an archetypal collective of the soul of all animals within a given species. And now that I have also touched upon spirit animals that may come in as, or totem animals that may come in as just temporary guides in our life journeys. Now that I've kind of like touched upon all that sort of briefly, I wanted to talk a little bit about how one might find or find out what animal or animals, because, you know, some people have more than one, what animal or animals are their own personal lifelong totems. They're overseers, they're guardians, they're guides in an animal sense. I think there are a lot of ways to determine this. There's not one set way. Sometimes people will discover their personal lifelong totems because they will notice that they begin seeing a certain animal everywhere. They will begin having dreams about that particular animal. They will maybe constantly see that animal, you know, around their general area, vicinity, whatever. Just constantly that animal will come up and come up and come up like a synchronicity. And they will begin to kind of be like, that's really interesting. There's something significant about this animal that keeps appearing to me, that I keep dreaming about, that people keep mentioning, that I keep seeing everywhere, you know, in books, magazines, just everywhere, everywhere. And, you know, then usually the person will, you know, given if they're inquisitive enough, they will begin to sort of look into that, you know, the significance, the symbolism, the meaning behind that particular animal, and they'll begin to explore their own thoughts and feelings in regard to that animal. And they will begin to feel, you know what, the associations and symbolism, qualities, all that kind of stuff associated with that particular kind of animal. It really resonates with me. And they will sort of begin to realize that that is indeed their lifelong totem. They will begin to sort of connect the dots together that, well, all through their life, there's always, you know, that animal has always sort of been present in some way, shape, form. Maybe they didn't realize it until they really started to receive like an overload of the appearance of that animal, you know, again, in dreams, in real life, in conversations, in books. Maybe then when they start to think about it, let's say it's a bear, they start to think about it and they start to realize, you know, that even when they were a child, there were significant synchronicities relating to bear, and they never thought much of it until now, given all of the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Given all of the presence of bear spirit around them, maybe they started like, you know, maybe they'll start to think like, hey, you know, bear was sort of always there, and I just never realized it till now. And then they will realize, yeah, that's their lifelong totem. Other people may try things such as meditations, maybe automatic writing. Some people may try doing spell work to call forth their lifelong totem, that their totem may appear, maybe in a dream, or maybe synchronistically, you know, in signs. Again, in terms of animals you see in your, you know, vicinity, in your area, or animals that, you'll start to see all over in books, magazines, whatever, because, not everybody lives in a rural area where, you're going to see things like bears and bats and cats and whatever just walking around, Maybe you live in an urban area. That doesn't mean that you can't have a totem like salmon or horse. It just means that when you receive your synchronicities, you may not necessarily see a horse galloping down your street, but you may start noticing that everywhere there are horses. You dream about horses. People are talking about horses. You see horses in magazines. You see horses in books. Paintings of horses. Logos with horses everywhere. Like, you may start to realize, just to be surrounded by, and again, just because you have the presence of an animal coming forth like this in your life, that doesn't mean that that particular animal is your lifelong totem. You may want to explore the symbolism, the teachings, the associations relating to that particular animal that comes forth in your life in such a, sort of present way. You may want to really look at those, because if those things relate more to a situation than to your lifelong sort of, journey or your core self or things like that, maybe the animal that has come forth has more to say about a situation, has more to help you work through in a particular situation than it does in a sense of like being with you for the long haul, because that happens too. There are so many different ways. It's not just about seeing an animal everywhere. It's not just about dreaming of an animal. It's not just about feeling an intuitive connection to an animal. There's so many ways and so many aspects of connecting with a spirit animal. It's really hard for me to sum up like in a concrete, like one size fits all way for everybody. Like, here's how you do it, A, B, C, D. But I do have a book that I can recommend that you may want to look for that might help you if you're seeking more information in respect to animal spirits or animal totems, or just the spiritual aspect of animals as a whole. This book is Animal Speak, The Spiritual and Magical Powers of Creatures Great and Small by Ted Andrews. And here is what it looks like. I'll hold it up as close as I can. That's what it looks like. It's a really awesome book. And it also talks about, not just land animals. It talks about birds. It talks about reptiles. It has some stuff in here about insects. It's a really, really great book. Let me read you the back cover. The animal world has much to teach us. Some animals are experts at survival and adaptation. Some never get cancer. Some embody strength and courage, while others exude playfulness. Animals remind us of the potential we can unfold, but before we can learn from them, we must first be able to speak with them. Now, for perhaps the first time ever, myth and fact are combined in a manner that will teach you how to speak and understand the language of the animals in your life. Animal Speak helps you to, meet and work with animals as totems and spirits by learning the language of their behaviors within the physical world. It provides techniques for reading signs and omens in nature, so you can open to higher perceptions and even prophecy. It reveals the hidden, mythical, and realistic roles of 45 animals, 60 birds, 8 insects, and 6 reptiles. Animals will become a part of you, revealing to you the majesty and divine in all life. They will restore your childlike wonder of the world and strengthen your belief in magic, dreams, and possibilities. And then it has a little box here where it just kind of says sort of what the book has in store for you. Little bullet points. Identify, meet, and attune to your spirit animal or animals. Discover the hidden powers and significance of yourself as reflected by your animal totem. Find out the medicine or power and spiritual significance of more than 100 different animals, birds, insects, and reptiles. Call upon the protective powers of your animal totem. Learn 4 techniques for understanding the languages of birds. Create and use 5 magical animal rites, including shape-shifting and sacred dance. Learn the significance and exotic languages of reptiles and insects. Read the omens and messages for you in nature. Learn the 4 primary lessons of predator and prey. Enjoy accounts of the author's own animal encounters. And then they have like a little thing here on the author. It says, Ted Andrews is a longtime volunteer at Brunker Nature Center in Troy, Ohio. He works in the animal rehabilitation program, and he serves as a trail guide and lecturer to groups who visit the center. He is also working to receive state and federal licensing to become a rehabilitator of birds of prey. He is the author of Magical Dance, How to See and Read the Aura, Dream Alchemy, and many other New Age titles. And this book is published by Llewellyn Publications, by the way. I think it's a really good book if you're interested in learning more about, you know, animal spirits, animal totems, all that kind of stuff. Even just learning the nature of, you know, animals in particular, or the associations and qualities. For example, you know, Nixie is my familiar. Maybe if I want to learn a little bit more about her, you know, her spirit, her animal spirit in the archetypal sense of cat spirit, so that I may understand certain aspects of Nixie, I may look up cat, you know, in this book. And this book will tell me all about, you know, her species soul, so to speak, her archetypal, essential animal spirit. It won't be particularly Nixie's spirit, but this is the spirit of basically Nixie's people, if that makes any sense. And, as we all know, getting to know someone's roots, getting to know about someone's roots or history or origins, you know, the origins of their family, the origins of their people, that helps us to understand others. So that would actually be something beneficial. If I want to forge a deeper bond with my little familiar, it makes sense that I would want to know more about her roots, you know, her species as a whole, the essential soul of her peoples as a collective. I hope at the very least this video serves as a really good introduction to this week's topic. I hope that I've opened the way for some deeper dialogue, sharing, learning, growth to sort of follow. Again, as I've said before, it's really hard for me to really say, like, there is one way to go about connecting with your totem, or, you know, with a totem in general that can maybe teach you something, you know, that is relevant to your life situation at this time. Even if it's not there for the long haul, or, you know, it's hard for me to really tell you, like, here's the way that you must go about relating to animal spirits in general. We're all so different. Our paths are all so different. It's just not something that I can just one size fits all, here you go. But I thought that, again, as I said, I would at least touch upon some concepts related to this topic, my thoughts, my feelings. I welcome any questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, etc. that you may have. Feel free, please, to share those with me and with others in the comment box below. I will be linking some additional information on this topic in the description of this video. I'll be sharing some informational links there again. And with that said, I bid you all blessed be and ashe. I hope you have found this video somewhat informative. And until next time, stay awesome, take care, and goodbye for now.